Hello and welcome back to the Morning Bulletin here on the Blood Red channel. I'm your host, Edward Kay, and I'm joined today by Dave Comerford, and we're going to be talking about Liverpool naming their 33-man squad for the mid-season trip to Dubai for the Dubai Super Cup. The big news being that an injured quartet have still made the squad. Arthur Melo, Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota and Naby Keita all still recovering from their respective injuries. And we'll start with Luis Diaz because he's believed to be the furthest along, supposedly ready to resume full team training and hopefully ready to maybe take part in a couple of these friendlies, Dave.
Yeah, I remember before the season start for the World Cup, there was a quote from Linda's about Diaz being back on the grass. So obviously he's now made use of the break to kind of get further along in his schedule and his recovery, and like you say, ready now to rejoin training. And if he can sort of play maybe an hour, 90 minutes across the two friendlies, then you'd hope that that's him kind of ready to go then by the time Liverpool obviously get back underway against Man City a few days before Christmas, and then they've got the Aston Villa game on Boxing Day. But yeah, the furthest along and probably the biggest boost as well, you could argue, in terms of the positions where Liverpool are kind of hardest hit at the moment. You know, you look at that left-hand side and we've had to experiment a little bit. We've seen Curtis Jones play there, Fabio Carvalho, Darwin Nunez, and each of them have done a decent job at various points, but none of them are specialists in that position. Obviously, with Jota injured as well, Liverpool haven't really had that in their squad. So I'm excited to see him back, and also on the basis that he was one of Liverpool's best players, really in the early weeks of the season, probably sort of behind Alisson. You could argue that he was the second best. So yeah, it's really good news for Liverpool. Obviously, very timely as well as we try and maximise the second half of the season that we've all been really banking on during the struggles so far.
Yeah, it'll certainly be good to see him back. And like you say, hopefully he can get an hour or so, maybe even 90 minutes in across those two games. But next up, Diogo Jota. I don't think we'll be seeing him. It's rumoured that he's, I believe it was the start of February they were hoping he'd come back. Pep Lijnders has spoken about how it'd be good to get him out there in Dubai regardless because they said the conditions for rehabilitation are so ideal out there. So, you know, will Liverpool be hoping that they can get him to stick to this plan, or will they be looking to get him back any sooner, do you think, Dave?
I'd say that there'll probably be kind of a low risk approach. It was quite a serious injury. And I think in pre-season, Jota actually aggravated a muscle injury that he picked up with Portugal, and that kept him out until sort of the start of September. So Liverpool are probably going to be extra wary with him. I think probably the main reason that Jota's on the trip is kind of like psychological, more so than anything else, because like you say, not back still for a couple of months. So I think it's more about, I think Linda's has said previously that having a change of scenery during a rehabilitation can boost the player. Like you say, the conditions are really good and the facilities, etc. But probably more so than that, it's about kind of the psychological battle our player goes through when they can't play. And also, I think, you know, if you left Shota back at the AXA training centre and he was just kind of there almost on his own rehab, and then that's not going to be particularly a pleasant experience for him. So I think it's the right thing to do to bring him along. And obviously, Liverpool have brought a very large squad, certainly initially, to Dubai. So they're trying to be as inclusive as possible with it.
Yeah, it's quite a large squad, as you say, and they managed to make space even for a man we've not spoken about on this channel in quite a while. Usually controversial when we do. Naby Keita, he's now entering the final 6 months of his Liverpool contract, I believe. So, I mean, hopefully he can get fit soon. And then after he is it a case of it's now or never for his Liverpool career?
I think it's already never, to be honest, because, you know, I think there's been a couple of false dawns already this season in terms of um, his fitness, and he's sort of on the verge of coming back, and then he breaks down again, which has it been very ill time because of the way last season went, and he had an opportunity this year, I think, to make that case for a new deal. But the way I see it now with Keita is, if you're looking at how he's going to sort of draw his motivation, I think there's probably an acceptance on both sides that he isn't going to stay at Liverpool beyond the season at this point. You know, it could still turn around, but I'd be very shocked by that. I think more so now it's like he has an opportunity to put himself in, you know, the shop window, if you like. I know it's a cliche, but when a player goes up to be a free agent, it effectively becomes like almost an auction, a bit of a sort of wage bidding war, if you like. So it's like which clubs are going to offer him contracts and how much are they going to be willing to offer him, basically. How much clamour is there going to be to actually get Keita's signature? And the better he plays, the better chance he gets of that in terms of the opportunity and also the financial reward. So, there's definitely something for him to play for still, even if he isn't going to be staying. And fingers crossed he can at least stay fit for most of the rest of the season and avoid, too many more injury troubles. Because I did really like the sort of rotation he had with Thiago last season. And sort of the players we've seen so far, I think he's almost the best replacement that we have, as in, dropping someone into the team. So that'd be ideal if he can manage it.
Yeah, hopefully it can be a productive sort of last 6 months of his Liverpool contract if the two do end up then parting ways. But the final of that injury quartet that we're going to speak about today, one we've seen even less of than Naby Keita, was Arthur Melo. I'm not entirely sure what the time frame is on his injury coming back, but I know it was quite a serious one. Do you see him ever playing again for the Reds?
I'm not sure. I think, what you said about the timeline of the injuries is quite telling because, I'm not aware either of any sort of hard return date for that one. I think it was just kind of out till the new year when it happened. So the fact that maybe they haven't placed a date on it, if you were being sort of cynical, you might say they've kind of done that to consider returning him in January, maybe, or how serious is the injury? Have they already kind of given up? All sort of things like that, you could say. And to be honest, he kind of defined forgotten man within this Liverpool squad. I think he made sort of one appearance, maybe two, before he actually got injured. And it's a shame because he has sort of a skill set that I think that could be useful. Liverpool took a risk when they made the sign, and the risks were pretty obvious, not only in terms of the injury record, but also in terms of the inconsistent performances. And it's backfired pretty heavily, to be honest. So it's one of them now. It's there's probably going to be some sort of debate over whether he can play a decent role between now and the end of the season. Because what you have to consider is having played so few minutes and not having had the preseason with Liverpool, and even if this sort of preseason is interrupted now by injury, then even when he is fully back fit, it's going to take a while for him to adapt. And then what stage of the season are you at by then? And it looks like it's going to be hard for him to make a case to certainly make that loan permanent come the end of the season. So, yeah, we'll have to see on that one. I don't think it's guaranteed that he stays beyond the January window. Certainly, if Liverpool want to bring in somebody else potentially, and then they might just see it as pointless to keep him around. So we'll see if he can play any sort of role. I'm sort of obviously skeptical about that at the moment, but hopefully, at least in Dubai, we get an indication of the timeline for him with his injury.
Yeah, the club have seemed to sort of want to distance themselves from any rumours, or they did initially when he got injured, about maybe sending him back in January. But I think I agree. I think if Liverpool are going to go out and buy a midfielder in January, which I think most people would say they definitely need to do, then he might be finding it difficult to keep his place in Liverpool and might be getting sent back to Juve. But we'll move on from the injured players now. A lot of youngsters included. Obviously, as you say, it's a 33-man squad, which gives him the opportunity to take a few youngsters along with him for the experience. Probably the standout of the young players included is Ben Doak, who's obviously forced his way into the sort of the first team picture this season. Do you think it'll be a good experience for him going out there with all the squad?
Yeah, you want to see young players who've made a really good impression given a chance to train with the first team, and I think it can only be beneficial for their development. He was amazing really on his debut against Derby, and you never want to put too much pressure on a player, not only off the basis of a few months with the youth teams, but also obviously very little time with the actual senior side. But yeah, definitely a player to get excited about, and I think it's really good that he's already, if you'd said in the summer when he arrived as a 16-year-old from Celtic that he'd be in this kind of first team camp by, December, you think, that's been a success, and it certainly has been a resounding one so far. So I think we got to kind of temper our expectations, but it's another definite positive step for him. Another player I sort of look at on the list who's kind of similar to Ben Doken is maybe a year or two ahead, sort of age-wise, maybe development-wise, is Cade Gordon, who hasn't, I think, featured at all this season for the U teams. Like he's been suffering with an injury quite significantly, and obviously a player who generates a lot of excitement last season. I think started in the the League Cup semi-final against Arsenal, which was a huge show of faith from Klopp, but hasn't really been able to kick on so far this season. Like I say, because of that injury, he's in the squad, so hopefully he's on the verge of coming back to fitness. And with the FA Cup coming up, obviously that game against Wolves, hopefully he's someone who can be in and around the first team squad again, because you wouldn't like to see his sort of the progress he made last season sort of curtailed by the injury trouble he's had.
I think my Wi-Fi just dropped out for a second there. That was nice. But yeah, as you say, exciting times for Ben Doak, and it will be a good experience for him joining up with the squad for this mid-season trip to Dubai, where Liverpool will be taking on, I believe it's Lyon on the 11th of December and AC Milan on the 16th of December. So it's only 5 more days we've got to wait, Reds, until Liverpool are back in action, even if it is just a friendly. But that's all we've got time for on the Morning Bulletin today. So Dave, thanks for joining me. And from myself and from Dave, it's goodbye for now.